campaign diary for Game Session 20, entitled Walk the Line. Hello, fellow adventurers. Our game session wrapped up on Friday night, and the party continued to make its way through the frozen north towards the valley and the eventual lair of Nirvos. Um, as the adventure began, we cleared up, and everybody rested and healed up after the fights with Nirvos in the middle of the night. The first thing that came up the next day, the party encountered Dalron the Glabrazu. He was just sitting on a boulder waiting, and he actually waved the party closer. This was a very lengthy social encounter with a lot of talking between Dalron and the party. Dalron told the party that he was somewhere in the frozen city. They had just not happened to cross paths. Dalron was the one who had captured and imprisoned the horned devil that the party had found tied to the ceiling in the frozen city. The party had released them, and he came offering help, but for a price. Dalron is a demon, but he is also a negotiator. And there were contracts pulled out, there were promises. The party did wind up walking away with a scroll of web. Out of the negotiations, there was a sample of a potion of speed or potion of haste that was offered, but the party and Dalron were not able to come to an agreement. So everybody went on their merry way. A few days went fairly innocuously by until your scout started to see a ghostly manticore. White manticore in the distance. It stayed just out of sight. It led the party on about a half-day trek, a little off direction, but not badly, until they came above a rise and went down into a cave. And within that cave, the party followed it. Once they saw the cave, the manticore was gone. And the party, of course, ventured into the cave. It opened into a wider area, and as they were getting ready to cross a small underground stream, the party was set upon by 5 ice trolls. This was a pretty lengthy combat. A number of the barbarians laid in, got fight, but the party eventually did get the upper hand, particularly Barbaric the Paladin was able to cast a spell called Moonbeam, which causes damage, and just like their warmer-blooded cousins, trolls regenerate, but the Moonbeam was able to keep them from regenerating, and lots of power kept them down. This was the only fight of the evening, and once they were defeated, the party was able to move further, deeper into the cave. But as they did, they came upon an unusual sight. They came upon 2 individuals standing and sitting and talking to one another within the cave. The one who did most of the talking was St. Cuthbert. The one who did less talking to the whole party was Rudd. It has been implied and brought up that this is the adventures against Nirvos have a multidimensional conflict to them. Chris, the evil god of the undead, is working with Nirvos, trying to push him towards becoming a Dracolich. Well, Chris is an undead god from another realm, another universe. But letting evil from that universe in wasn't enough. 2 other gods from another realm had come into our campaign world, and now they were both finally revealed. Doing most of the talking was St. Cuthbert. He is a good god, a god of strength, etc. He's a very simple sort of god. Evil needs to be beat about the head and shoulders on a pretty regular basis. And as you can see by the armor, the mustache, and the big old club, he's usually the one to do it. The second goddess sitting there was Rud, depicted here. Rud has actually been in play for a little while. She is a goddess of luck and fortune and gambling, and she is actually, we've been calling, through Gareth, the whip god. That's really has been incorrect. It's been the whip goddess. But most of the conversation is through Saint Cuthbert. And Saint Cuthbert in particularly confronts Barbaric, your half-orc paladin. After the battle with Nirvos, the half-orc paladin was a little taken aback. He is the bravest of his tribe, one of the fiercest warriors, but he had seen sort of the destructive power of Nirvos and how dangerous he could be, and he was wondering if the old gods that he had followed and was a champion of were strong enough. And St. Cuthbert made him an offer he couldn't refuse. The offer from St. Cuthbert is that your Oath of the Ancients half-orc paladin is now an Oath of Vengeance half-orc paladin. They are that vengeance, stop Nirvos, slay Nirvos, in order to keep the half-orc tribes in the realms safe. The last thing we did as we were wrapping up is that Gareth decided he wanted help. But the trouble with help from Rud is she is a gambling god. And after a palpable few seconds as I thought about this, she offered to help the party, but that help came in a very unusual way called the Deck of Many Things. You will find all kinds of writings and blog posts and things of that nature on these decks. They come in two forms, 13 cards and 22 cards. Each card has a different effect. The cards are shuffled and laid in front of the person who's considering playing them. Whoever's drawing has to decide, before they pull a single card, how many they will pull. As they pull, the effect becomes realized. And depending on the effect, it may stop them right there. Gareth asked Rud for help. Rud pulled one of these. This is an artifact deck. This is an incredibly powerful item. Pulled it out. He declared that he is going to draw 3 cards. And draw 3 cards he did. Now, here are the effects. The first card was called Balance. This one is an alignment change. Gareth has been what you would think of as chaotic neutral. Really random kind of behaviors. But here's the thing. Gareth must, from now on, act and behave in a lawful manner. Now, he is still neutral towards good and evil. If Gareth does not act in lawful ways, he will face consequences. All of these are bound by powerful artifact-level magics, depending on the size of the transgression. Not crossing in a crosswalk, and he may take a point or 2 with damage. Doing something completely and totally chaotic, he may have major effects like losing his ability to cast spells and things of that nature. Again, a lot of that is going to be dependent on the level and amount of transgression. So the first card was much more of a role-playing card. Card 2 was called The Flames. And that does not look like a warm and cuddly puppy kind of card. Gareth has now been bound to a fiendish enemy. Basically, Gareth has a mortal enemy out there in the world that will be coming for him. And who else do you think it is but Dalron? Now, this card binds them both to one another. So they will be coming towards each other in some way, shape, or form. Their paths must cross again, and each of them will feel compelled to move certain directions towards one another to bring about that confrontation. The third card is called the Comet. Gareth must defeat the next creature the party fights, but he has to defeat it in solo combat. If he lives in victorious, he automatically becomes 9th level. And this actually worked out. A conversation we had before we started playing merged this card really well. Gareth was saying, and this is true for many spellcasters, 4th level spells are okay, but there's some really good cleric spells at 5th level, which you get to cast at 9th level. So it's like, will we get to 9th level so I get 5th spells for the big battle? And now, guess what? Yes, there is a possibility that Gareth will have become 9th level and have 5th level spells. However, in the words of Ivan Drago, if he dies, he dies. To get this, he must and will be compelled to fight in solo combat. That means he must, once initiative is rolled, do it alone. Now that wraps up our session. This was a very heavy roleplay session and negotiation session. So when our adventure continues, well, one of the big ones first is, how will Gareth fulfill the comet? What will the next combat encounter be? What will the next... will he be able to fulfill this requirement of the deck of many things? Second, when and where will the party again cross paths with Dalron in order to fulfill the Flames card that Gareth drew? And lastly, the journey north will continue and arrive at Nirvos Valley.